Hello my friends, in this video we're going to build this nice and simple grid of cards, or better said boards. We'll also create a Laravel board model with its relationships, migration and factory. Finally, we'll seed some of those boards to the database and use them to populate this boards page component. Enjoy the video. Before we do anything else, there is an error we need to fix. In the previous lessons, I wanted to make sure that we share the avatar URL with inertia. So I've called the only method on the authenticated user. However, we don't always have an authenticated user, hence the error we receive. To fix this, I'll open the handle inertia request middleware, scroll down here, and use the null safe operator. Refresh, and we're good to go. What I want to do now is go to my web routes file and replace everything dashboard related with our boards page. So I'll use find for that, and we can even use find and replace, I think. We'll replace dashboard with boards. And we also need to replace the capital one. And finally, we need to rename the page component. So I'll rename dashboard to boards.view. Let's authenticate. And we are redirected to our boards endpoint. I'll open the boards page component and remove everything inside the layout. And the first thing I want to do is add a border. So I'll open the authenticated layout. And here on the nav, we'll do border B. Now here we'll have a wrapper and the content. The wrapper will take all the available space, so we'll make it full width. We'll give it a background and some padding. For the content, we'll do class max width 5XL and MX auto to center it. Now here we'll have a heading and a button to create new boards. To align them, I'll wrap them within a flex container. So I'll do div flex items center, and we'll have heading, let's say my boards, and button, let's say create new board or just create board. For the title, we'll do font black and let's say text gray 700. And for the button, we'll add a bit of margin, some padding. Let's say BG gray 100, rounded, font medium, and on hover, let's say we'll make it BG gray 200. Let's reduce the padding a bit. And maybe we can even add an icon to it. So I'll do the plus icon from hero icons. Let's say class width 4, age 4, and here we'll have a span, so we can add some margin. Let's import the plus icon from hero icons view / solid. Okay, we'll use flex to align them. And maybe add some negative margin to the icon. And we're done with the button. Let's minimize this and move on to the cards list. So we'll have an unordered list with some list items and an anchor tag. Let's say board 1. And this will be a grid, so we'll use grid. And we'll start with a single column. So we'll do grid calls 1, and let's say gap 4. For the list items, we'll do BG blue 600, and on hover, we'll do BG blue 700. Let's say rounded MD, and let's also give them a min height. So we'll do min h, and then to use a custom value, we'll use the square brackets. Moving on to the link, we'll do class, text white, text LG, and font bold. And here it is. However, to make the link stretch over the whole card, we'll need to use absolute. So I'll do absolute here and inset 0. And of course, we need to have relative to the parent. Otherwise, the link will float all over the page. So we'll do relative here. And here we go. We need to add some padding. And I think we're done. Yep. Moving on, let's duplicate some of these boards. Close this and move to a larger screen. Let's go to boards. And here they are. What I want to do now is have more than one card per row. So I'll go here to our grid and say on SM, I want to have 2 columns. Okay. Let's do MD grid calls 3 and LG grid calls 4. Let's add some margin to the heading. So here we'll do MB4, let's say. And this looks nice. Moving on, let's create a Laravel board model, seed the database, and use the actual boards here in this list. To create a model, I'll do PHP artisan make model board, and we'll create a migration, a factory, and a controller. I'll open the migrations file, and for now we'll only have the name and the user ID. So I'll do table string name, and then table foreign ID, user ID, constraint, and on delete we'll cascade. Now we'll go to the board model, and we'll disable mass assignment by setting the guarded to an empty array. Let's also add the user relationship. This belongs to a user. Let's add the return type. And on the user class, we'll add a relationship for the boards. So I'll go down here and say public function boards, return this user has many board. Add the return type. And let's move on to the board factory. So I'll open the board factory, go here and say name. Let's use the faker and say name. And for the user ID, we'll have user factory. Now that we have the migration, the board factory, the board model, and the relationships in place, we can go to our database seeder and seed some boards. We'll do user here, and then we'll do board factory 4, we'll pass it the user, and create. To make more of these, we can go here and say 10. I'll open the terminal and say PHP artisan migrate fresh, and then seed. If I go to my database on the boards table, we see that sure enough we have 10 boards. Now let's open our web routes file and move the boards endpoints inside the board controller. So I'll grab this and say board controller, and we'll call the show method. Let's open the board controller, paste the content in and say show. This will be public. Let's import inertia, reformat, and move on to the next one. We'll grab this and say board controller, index. We'll add the method here. And another thing I want to do is create a route group to apply the middleware. This is fine as it is, but I prefer to group routes together. So I'll do route group, middleware, grab this, paste it in. We'll have function. And now we can move these two here and remove the middleware call. Let's also name this route boards show. Now we can finally go to our index action and return the currently authenticated user boards. So I'll do boards is auth user boards. I'll open the boards component and define the props. So we'll do const props equal define props boards, which will be an array. Now down here, we can remove all these items and do v4 board in boards. We'll use the board ID as key. Here we'll have board name. And let's also replace the anchor tag with an inertial link. For the ref, we'll do route boards show and we'll pass it the board ID. Let's make sure the inertial link component is imported from inertia view 3. And I think we're done. Let's check out the browser, refresh, and here they are. Let's add some padding to align these two. I'll go back to the heading and let's say px3. And this is a bit better. That's it for now. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, share it, subscribe, click the bell button, all that good stuff. Bye.